You could hear them follow you in the woods that are right next to our workshop.
Lisa and her husband bought a property in rural Arkansas without knowing that this property had several Bigfoot creatures on it. And since they bought the property, this has been a life-changing event for them. They've had several Class A encounters, a lot of strange stuff that's happened. We're going to go over every single bit of it. You don't want to miss 1 second of this episode. But before we get into any of it, I just want to say thanks for being here. If you've got an encounter you would like to send me, you can send it to me by email at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. But let's jump right into the story.
The very beginning started in the summer of 2024. My husband and I were sitting on our back porch, just enjoying the day. We always do it. We go outside and sit with our dogs nightly, every single night. And it was, I'd say, late afternoon, and we're sitting on the porch, and this really pungent smell just came wafting in. And it was the smell of dead carcass and skunk and musky dog. And it smelled like something had never bathed in its entire life. It was just an awful smell. And we're used to the chicken manure truck, and it didn't smell anything like that. It was worse than that. And we're like, okay, well, that's nasty. And we just ignored it. And within a minute or two, there was the loudest, blood curdling scream I have ever heard. It wasn't a bear, it wasn't a mountain lion, it wasn't a bobcat. I mean, we couldn't identify. It had the lung capacity of more than a man. I mean, huge lung capacity. And I remember looking at him, and he looked at me. He's like, you heard that too, right? And it's like, yeah, I heard it. And at first we're like, okay, just brush it off. It'll go away. That's it. Then we kept talking and we blew it off, and a few minutes passed, and that smell got stronger, really strong. And a few minutes after that, that scream came again, but a lot closer. It was in our holler area on our property. And it just was so loud. It made the hair on your neck stand up. And we both again looked at each other. It's like, okay, whatever it is, maybe it's passing through. Let's hope. And we're like, okay, we're good. We're fine. We're totally perplexed. Whatever is this? I mean, it's nothing we know. I was raised with a hunting family, so I know animal noises, and it's nothing I've ever heard before. So stupid us sat there. And a few minutes later, the smell just wafted in it, and it was so, so strong. I mean, it was just, you'd swear it was like 10 feet away. It was so bad. And then another scream. And this time the scream was just so close. It felt maybe a couple yards away, maybe 2, 3 yards away. That's how close it sounded, but we couldn't see anything because in our holler area, it's very overgrown because we let it overgrow. So we were like, okay, we're going inside. So we went inside. We retreated for the night because it was mind blowing because it was something we had never experienced in our lives. And we tried to put it behind us. He's like, okay, whatever it is, it just passed through the area. We never have to worry about it again. We're good. It's just a one-time thing. We tried not to discuss it, even though in our back of our minds, we did both think, could that have possibly been a Bigfoot? Maybe, because it doesn't match with any other animal we know. And it went on for a couple weeks. Things were quiet. Then the screams started again. And then in January, we have the holler area, and we left it for the animals. People aren't allowed to go in it. The only people that are allowed to go in is my husband to feed the deer and to cut what we called a snake break. So it's in between our home and our holler area, so the snakes can't get into our little private fenced area for our dogs and ourselves. So because it was January and that was our first snow, we had about 8 inches. So normally when my husband went out there, he always took his 0-point mower to carry to help carry the deer feed. So it was easier. But because of the snow, he decided to walk, which is the first time ever he walked in there. And when he was walking in there, he looked down and he saw prints. And the prints were really big, not of a human, and no other human goes on that property. I mean, no one's allowed on that property. They're just not allowed. It's our private property. And he took prints of it and he came in. So I got something to tell you, and it might give you nightmares. It's like, oh no, what is it? Not thinking it was anything like that. And he shows me the picture of the footprints. And he told me exactly where they were. And that was really close to the house. I'd say, what is that? Oh, 30 feet away, maybe to that fence. So to me, that's really close. Too close for me. And I wanted to verify what it was because I'm a person, I have to know what something is, and then I have to know how to deal with it. So I took the footprints that he gave me and I sent them to two neighbors that are hunters. They both said they don't know. And it was funny because my one neighbor said, well, her husband, at the same time that we found that print, he found prints on his property too. And he's a hunter. He said they were near his deer feeder. And he said the size was too big for a man to make and too wide of a gate in between the steps for a man to make as well. So they had their prints, we had our prints. And so I sent them into three experts in zoology in the field of, primates and stuff like that, and a couple other people. And they all came back with juvenile Bigfoot. It's like, oh, yay. What we were thinking about, what we smelled, what we heard. We have the footprint. Now we know what it is. Okay, let's hope that's it. That's what we hope for. And a couple weeks after that, that neighbor, she called me back and she said, I have more footprints for you. The property behind you, real far back, they have footprints at the same time. It's on his farm pasture. So I'm seeing a pattern here. It seems like a travel route for him. It's like, okay. So I reached out to a bunch of experts, like, what do we do? I mean, are they going to keep coming? How do we prevent them from coming to our home, et cetera, et cetera? So they suggested some lights. So we, turned on more lights, no big deal. And the animals, or I call them creatures, started up again with the screaming and the yelling and the grunting and the huffing and whistles. They do this really strange whistle and a really strange bird call. It's almost like a tropical bird, which of course does not belong in Arkansas. So it sticks out like a sore thumb. I mean, it's like, okay. So, and it got to the point where when my husband would go back, if he had to go to the holler or anywhere in the yard or to our workshop, he carried a gun because you don't know the intentions. These are wild animals. We don't want to harm them, but we still want to protect ourselves. And we didn't know what we were up against. We truly didn't. While he was in his workshop, he was doing some work and he heard the wood knocks and the growls and the huffs, and he's like, okay, they're still here. And this went on for a while, and then we were suggested, well, maybe some motion lights. So we put some motion lights up on the left side of our backyard and the right side of our backyard because we wanted an area where it just faced in towards the house, not out towards the holler. We left the holler for the animals, they can have it, but we were trying to show them that this area you can't come in because we were told that they don't like to be seen in light, they don't want to be seen. And we put trail cams up, which were useless. They either would glitch out or just do nothing, which was very frustrating. And it's still the same way. We'll have the trail cam up, we know they're there, and the trail cam will go off and there's nothing. It does absolutely nothing. And it's frustrating. So we put the lights up and things were okay for a while. And then we noticed that they were breaking the branches on each side of the motion lights. It's like they were setting up a perimeter. It's like, okay, well, these branches are broken here and there's a motion light here. These branches are broken here. There's a motion light here. So everywhere we had a motion light, they broke branches. So they knew where not to pass and turn on the motion lights. But we had a couple of blind spots. So one night when we were sleeping, these dear sweet little creatures decided to get in our yard and bang on our house, right on our bedroom. And that was it. I was done. I was like, I'm scared to death. We did what they say. You put the lights on, you close your windows, you close your blinds, you don't leave your windows open, you don't leave your doors open, you lock everything up. I mean, you're pretty much a prisoner in your own house. So, we did all that. And then we added more spotlights and we got this really huge spotlight, what we put on our back porch. And that thing alone lights up the whole backyard. And they can't get to it because it's on our porch. So far, they have been peacefully not getting there. They've been staying where to the motion lights and not passing it. But in the front yard, they're pretty much doing whatever they please. At first, we didn't know they were coming to the front yard until the footprints. I mean, we get footprints all the time, they're all over the place. The first time I had the first visual with them, it was March, I think around March 20th or so. We had a new puppy and I was feeding it. And I was looking at our back glass door and I saw this big mass and it got my attention. So I went up to look at the window and look out and I saw it. It was near our abandoned barn behind our property. It was about 7 to 8 feet tall at the least. I mean, it was a distance, so and that's a guesstimate. It could be taller or it could be about right. And it was dark, dark brown. I saw the head, the neck, the torso, and its arms were reaching forward and it was doing something in front of it. And then it took a step and it was gone. It was just, where'd you go? You're gone. It's like, okay, that's fine. And then little time went on and things were fine. And then April was the second encounter. I was out sitting on the porch with the dogs. The dogs alerted, and I looked into the field, and it was clear as day. It was to the right in our holler, standing straight and tall. I could see its arms, its legs, its head, its torso, everything but its feet. Now I couldn't see the details of the face, but I could see everything. And I watched it just move. Each step, it would take me at least 3 or 4 steps to take its one step. And I started screaming. I'm not going to lie, because I was outside. So it was like, okay, I'm not behind a glass door. I'm not safe here. And it just walked away, ignored my screaming, didn't even look at me, just like, whatever, lady. And it just kept walking and it walked in front of our neighbor's pond and disappeared into the woods. And that time, I have to admit, because I was outside and so close to it, I guess you'd say, in my opinion, because it was yards, about, I don't know, 60 yards away, maybe 50. I was stunned and overwhelmed, and I cried for about 30 minutes because it was just so overwhelming. It's like, you saw that. You saw the whole thing. You saw it walk. But the whole time, it was just like it was peaceful. It was happy. It was minding its own business, just going about its day. It was kind of amazing. It almost didn't seem like an animal, if that makes any sense. It just, hey, this is where I live. This is what I do. We found out later it was picking berries on our property. I guess it likes our berries and our deer and such. We have a great food source here, a great water source, great coverage for them. I mean, they have everything they need here. They don't need to go anywhere. We do feel this is their they from what I'm told by people that come out in the area of Prim, that there have been other encounters as well. So it dates back 45 years or more, probably even further back. So we feel they've been in the area the entire time, and this is some part of their travel route. But for some reason, they seem to like it here in our yard. When we first got here in April of 2022, we didn't even know the holler was part of our property. Our real estate agent forgot to tell us. So we found out a year later. So at first we bush hogged it, sorry, and we took care of it and made it look nice. It was beautiful, but then the deer were coming and they were so happy and so beautiful that we decided, let's just give it back to nature. Just let it have at it. We'll give them deer food and we'll just let them go. So again, time went by, they'd bang, they'd huff, they'd growl. And when we would go to our shed, our workshop in the back, you could hear them follow you in the woods that are right next to our workshop. You can hear them step off in the woods, step by step with you, walking all the way to the workshop. And that's a bit overwhelming, but you couldn't see them, but their step is so heavy. I mean, there's a big difference between a deer, a human, and one of those. I mean, it's just the sound is so strong and so deep and so hard, and you can hear the twig snap and the stuff on the ground snap, and it's like, so that was, we still deal with that now. We're still, with the growls and the huffs and everything. And so I had put something up on one of the Facebook Bigfoot pages, like they have a safe space, which are rare and wonderful, by the way. And I just put a little excerpt about what we were going through. Not much, just a little, just very, very basic, maybe 12 lines. And I got a call from a gentleman. He did a podcast called Drunken Cryptids. His name was Matt, and he asked if we do a podcast. And we said, sure, fine, we'll do it. And he was smart. During the podcast, while we were doing, he said, can we come and do an investigation? And it's like, well, we're on the spot here. What do we do? So we agreed. So Matt and gentleman Jacob came up from Drunken Cryptids, and lovely gentleman. And I was like, okay, here you go. So they wanted to do an investigation where they went around a few times during the day and a few times at night. It's like, have at it. In the back of my mind is thinking, well, since we did the podcast, they probably want to see if it's really happening here, which I don't blame them. There's people out there that will make up stories. Let's let them come out and see what they can find. They found footprints. They found a knuckle print, which they took a cast of. Now, that I thought was really cool. I mean, a knuckle print of a Bigfoot, that's pretty awesome. I think I sent you the picture of that. Let's see. They heard the movement, they heard the gruffs and the huffs and the growls, and they were convinced by the time they were ready to leave the first time that, oh, yeah, there's activity. So they decided, well, we'd like to come back another time and do a big investigation with all the fancy equipment and everything. So we said, okay, we let you here the first time, we'll let you back again. Before they came back the second time was the third sighting. That was July 15th, I think. I remember going to the back porch. It had rained and we wanted to put our dogs outside. So I went outside to sweep the porch off of water because we had a terrible thunderstorm. And I was sweeping for a while and I sat down. When I sat down, I looked in the holler and I noticed the brush rustling, but I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't see anything. I ignored it. Went back to sweeping. And then after a few minutes, I sat down again and I looked over there just to look. And the creature popped right up and just walked away like it was nothing. I went and got my husband and I pointed to the area where the creature had just left. And he said, oh, yeah, that's where the trails are that they go on. And that's where the berries are. So I guess I must have caught him when he got done eating his berries. So then Matt and Jacob came back again. So when they came back this time on the one trail area, which the Bigfoot make, it's their trail. It's not, the deer didn't cause it. It's a wide, really beaten down trail. They had taken a vertebrae, and there was a tree. The tree's like this, and there's a branch sticking out like that. And they put the vertebrae down the branch, which I believe I sent you pictures of as well. And we think it's because they were marking their territory, saying, hey, this is where we are, don't come here. This is our property. And I noticed since they've left, I guess the creatures really enjoyed them out there and playing the game with them, that now they're banging on our fence, trying to get my husband to come out of the house and go in the woods after them and play a game of, hide and seek, come and find us. And they've been doing it like off and on for the past couple weeks, just making, and if we just ignore them, they'll make a, last night it was funny because the dogs, usually when they come, the dogs will run to the porch and they'll howl. So we know that the creatures are there and we'll let them in. But that's where the fence is where they can see through. But on the side of our bedroom, the fence in our backyard is wood. So it's 6 feet tall. So our dogs have courage there. They're like, yeah, no worries. You can't get us. So they were going crazy yesterday, man. I just crazy. And it's like, okay, I look out the window. I can't see anything. And it's like, and I go outside. I look at, I can't peek out the window and the door. I can't see anything. And as I'm coming in, I hear, it sounds like boot steps. So I think, okay, my husband must be outside. The door was unlocked. So maybe he went to check because he heard the noise from the dogs too. And I called out to him, no answer. I look everywhere, no answer. So I retreat to the inside and I go and find him in the theater room watching TV. I think, I guess you're not outside and it's not your boot prints. But the noise was just so loud and so hard and so strong. To me, it sounded like boot prints. So my husband went out there and just looked out, but it was pitch black. He says, well, I can't see anything right now. So I went back to my room and I just called it a night. And I turned off the light in the bedroom. And it's not even a minute. And something hits the window. It sounded like little pebbles or dirt. And it's like, dogs can't throw dirt. So I figured, okay, it's these guys, because I notice sometimes when I'm in the bedroom, because on certain days, my husband and I, we watch TV Monday through Wednesday in our theater room, and Thursday through Sunday is his football time or sports time. So he'll be in the theater room and I'll be in the bedroom. And when I'm in the bedroom with playing games or whatever I'm doing, I'll have the curtains open and the lights on. So I guess they like to observe. But when I turn off the lights, they get upset. They'll either whistle or I guess dirt, because I went out this morning in the back just to see, because I thought, well, maybe I was just imagining things, and there was some dirt. It's like, okay, well, dirt doesn't just get there by itself. Now, it wasn't anything that would break the window, but it got my attention. But I think they like to observe us and they want to learn about us like we want to learn about them. I really do. I don't think we're in danger, but at the same time, we will always be cautious. We will always be careful and we will always keep our precautions up, because I know the first time our lights go down in the back and the power goes out, they're going to be right at our house. And that's not going to be a good feeling. And I will not lie, I will be scared to death. But this is, like I said, it's become a life changing thing. We're, you know, experiencing, I mean, it's not every day. There's certain times of the month where they seem to like back off and it'll be quiet for like 3 weeks, which is nice. It's peaceful like that. But then when it picks up hard. Like right now, we're in an upswing. It's summer, they're out, they're active. Now, in winter, they'll calm down a bit till January, and then they'll start up again.
Lisa, you use the right wording that this is life changing. When you have these kind of encounters, it absolutely changes everything about your life, especially the property that you're at. When you have these creatures coming on your property and they're staying like that, a lot of times these things migrate through. But why do you think they have decided to stick around your property for so long?
I don't know if before they, well, I think it's a travel route, number one, for them, because it not only goes from behind us, it also, there's been encounters past us. The most recent one was, other than us, was for a young boy. He was 11 years old. This happened, I believe, what I was told, 2 months ago. They had built a house and they had, I guess, just been here for a little while, and they have a creek on their property. So the 11-year-old kid was looking out at his creek and he noticed this black figure leaning over at his creek, and he didn't know what it was. All of a sudden, it stood up 7 to 8 feet tall, stood up straight, and walked away from what he described exactly like I had described the creature. So, and this was also, I'm sure, life changing for the 11-year-old child. And there's no reason an 11-year-old child would make that up. I mean, it just seems to be a perfect group that is going. So we know at the very least this is a travel route, and it's been a travel route for a long time. I think they're on our property because we have a lot of deer, a lot of game, we have a lot of vegetation. I don't know if they watched us before and felt comfortable, because sometimes now when I'm on the back porch, because my husband works during the day and he works at home, so I'll get bored and I'll go outside with the dogs and sit in the porch and I'll hear them whistle. Though I'm a terrible whistler, I do try to whistle back, though it's really pathetic. But sometimes, if they hear my whistle, sometimes they'll whistle back, which is kind of cool. I think in some ways they're trying really hard to communicate with us, but also like we are with them, keep it at a distance. But I really feel, especially with the banging, hey, come out and play kind of thing. And when I'm like out in the front, no, I a couple weeks ago, I was giving treats to the squirrels and the rabbits and everything. I took out some cucumbers and marshmallows and stuff. And in the woods where they always are, I hear this, oh, it's just really loud, but their lung capacity is so long. It just like, oh, really long, like, hey, I'm going to get some of that later. It's like they're just, to me, amazing. They're aloof. I think they're highly intelligent. I really, truly do. I think they really think out what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. I don't think they just happen by something. I really don't. I think each creature has its own personality, and it's how someone treats them is how they're going to get treated back. For example, one man had reached out to me. He lives in the town right next to us, and he said he believed me because he had Bigfoots on his property, but he took him and his friend got a couple hundred rounds of ammunition and they shot up the field really well and they put out bear traps, and then his two dogs went missing. I figure if you're going to show them aggression, you're going to get aggression back. They're just trying to protect themselves, just like we're trying to protect ourselves. No, I'm not sure that's all of these creatures, but I think each and every one of them has a personality like human beings do. You got good people and you got nasty people. And I think the ones we have here are better. They're not mean unless you go after them. They're not going to go after you. And for the most part, I think it's very rare for a Bigfoot to attack. Now, they will give you warnings. I know that when people go to the creek near here, they will throw rocks at them, but that's to tell them to leave. This is our area. We don't want you here. Now, if you don't listen to that, then they'll probably try to chase you next. If you don't leave after that, I have no idea what they're going to do, but I wouldn't want to be there.
I think you're spot on with that. These things are extremely intelligent and they're very territorial. They mark a territory and they seem to just take ownership of it. And I think they give people lots of warning signs. And I think sometimes people don't heed those warnings, and maybe those are the ones who go missing. I don't know. It's a strange world. And when you first had this visual encounter with these things, could you give us a little bit more detail of what the creature looked like?
It was really dark brown, about 7 to 8 foot tall. It wasn't fat. I would call it like a baseball player body with a little bit of a dad belly, if that makes any sense. The hair was maybe medium in length. It honestly looked like an ape. That would be the best way to describe it, an ape. But it was muscular, but not, not super muscular. It was more tall, and the arms were very long. His arms were long, very, very long. And like I said, when it took one step, it would take me 3 or 4 steps to keep up. I mean, and it was like nothing, just walking. I mean, just so huge. They take up so much space so quickly. As for the face, I could only see it from the side. So I really can't give you the details of it. I know its nose protruded out, like I guess a gorilla would, kind of, but I can't tell you. The head was large. I mean, it was pretty. I'd say, gosh, the neck is this wide, the head is that wide. So it was a pretty wide head. But like I said, it reminded me of, I'd say, a baseball player bod where it had muscles, nice toned muscles, but it had a little bit of pouch, a little bit of a dad belly. Best way to describe it. But it was at least 7 to 8 feet tall, definitely. It was something I'll never forget.
It's so hard to put into words what it's like to see one of these creatures until you've seen one, because they definitely change you for life. And I firmly believe that that one you saw that day, there was probably another one really close by, because for whatever reason they seem to run in pairs like that. If you're seeing one, you're seeing another.
Well, yeah, that's funny because the I think it was the first time it happened when the other one growled at you, right? Yeah, the first time it happened, the one had taken off to the left, and so my husband, it was only a couple minutes for him to get to the backyard area of our yard between our family yard and the holler fence, and while my husband was trying to look to where it left from, there was, we believe, one of them growling at him from the right side, and he's like, "Okay, I'm out of here." I remember that. It's like, "I'm gone." So and then when, yeah, and sometimes it's, I noticed the one time it was whistling and I thought it was whistling for me, but then he was whistling up in the one part of the property to the left, and then I'd hear a reply whistle on the right, and then I'd hear another one on the left getting closer and another one on the right. And it went on for like 3 or 4 minutes until the whistles got super close. So it's like they were trying to find each other again. Like I guess they had gone off and done their own thing and they were trying to come back together. So it was their way of communicating, which I found very interesting.
That is really interesting. And you mentioned communicating, and I know that you've heard a lot of different vocalizations on the property and growls and noises. But are you familiar with the samurai chatter? And if you are, have you ever heard anything like that at all on your property?
My husband said he had, a while back when he was at the workshop, he had heard what he called chatter. I personally, I don't think I've heard that, or not that I know of, but I know my husband has brought that up before. And the one guy said when we think they're doing wood knocks, that they might actually be doing some kind of click.
They do a lot of different strange stuff, and it's funny because the longer I do this podcast, the more questions I have. You walk away with way more questions than you do answers. Like, very rarely do you get solid answers. There's just so much we don't understand. But one thing I wanted to go back to is you mentioned that you'd felt like at one point in time they were trying to call out to your husband to come out to them. They do that a whole lot. How often do they do that kind of behavior? Does that happen pretty often?
They had just started that after the second investigation with the gentleman. Like I said, I think they enjoyed the cat and mouse in the woods with all the 9 guys. And they've been doing that a lot lately because they're really trying to get my husband to come out and go in the woods and, in my opinion, play. I think they had great fun doing that. Like I said, they're juveniles, they're mischievous. I mean, they'll move things on our property. I remember the one time we had left in the morning, everything was fine. It was on a Saturday, I believe. And we came home and we pulled in the driveway, and I asked my husband, why would you put the trash can upside down in the middle of the driveway? What? He goes, I didn't do that. What are you talking about? And I guess they decided, because it could have just fallen out. We have an enclosure for our trash cans, so the wind has never blown them out in 3 years, and we've never had any trouble with bears or anything taking it. And the trash can was taken out of the enclosure, the lid was put on, and it's one of those rounded lids, and it was put completely upside down. Now that takes some skill to keep that lid on and keep it upside down, but they did just that. There were no bite marks on it, there were no scratch marks on it, so it wasn't a bear, because a bear would have left bite marks and scratch marks. There were no marks whatsoever, and our neighbors aren't close, and there would be no reason for any of our neighbors to come and just take our garbage can and put it upside down. And they've moved some couple other things. I mean, I think these ones are just very mischievous at most. Now, are we still cautious? Of course, because they're wild animals. And maybe one day they're in a good mood, maybe one day they're not. I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to draw us out for another reason. We don't know. So we're always going to be cautious. It's rather to be safe than to be sorry, ever.
Definitely. And I think that's smart because I know a lot of times, I've seen them, or not seen them, I've heard several encounters where these things would do that and draw people out for really with bad intentions, and you don't know what these things are going to do. And they definitely are mischievous. And juveniles seem to be that way. They're very, I don't know if playful is the right word, but they're very just kind of get into stuff and move stuff. So it's typical juvenile behavior. I'd love to know, and nobody really knows, but with all this activity going on and these experiences you've had, in your opinion, what do you think Bigfoot is?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a creature that technically hasn't been discovered. I I I don't know. I mean, it's highly intelligent. It's definitely social with its own kind. I mean, it's in itself its own civilization, I guess you could say, if that explains it. I mean, I'm just so in awe of them because I'm learning something new every day. I mean, it's they're just amazing. I don't know where and how they evolved the way they have, but they have they're more intelligent than any other animal I know.
Yeah, that's a good answer. They're super intelligent and they have some of the strangest behaviors and some of the things they do. You have one side of the camp that's more into the woo side. They think they're more than flesh and blood, and the other side that's just flesh and blood. And the statement I've always settled on is when they're flesh and blood, they're flesh and blood, and when they're not, they're not. And I think we're all taking educated guesses, just trying to figure this thing out. But I always love to hear other people's opinions and what do they think. And with all this activity going, I got to ask because, the kind of encounters that really keep me up at night are the ones where they're watching you in your home. But do you think they're doing that? Have you ever seen any faces in the windows, things like that?
No, no, because with the lights in the back, they can't come up to our windows. And in the front, on our porch area, we have spotlights, so they can't right now come up to our windows. Now, like I said, if the power goes out, they can do whatever they want but like when we're sitting on the front or back porch, you feel them watching, and you can tell when they're around because everything gets dead silent. No birds, no crickets, nothing. It is just dead silence. And when you hear that dead silence, you know they're there. You just know. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts. And it's a very eerie feeling. It really is. I mean, for everything to go dead silent, until you hear something outside go dead silent, it's an experience I can't explain.
No, you can't. It's definitely the predator in the woods type of a thing, and nature knows when there's a predator there, everything just shuts off. And for that part of the state, it doesn't get quiet in the woods very often. So when it does, it's really something. And what would you say to somebody that is on the fence about whether they believe in Bigfoot or not? What would you say to them that are listening to this podcast and they're just unsure? So what would you say?
Okay, it's simple. The way I felt. The only thing before I believed in was, why are there so many people all over the world saying the same thing? Why? I could see if it was like maybe 5 or 10 people, but we're talking thousands and upon thousands of people. And a lot of the stories, they're, they, they correlate, like, yeah, this lines up with this. Like the stories I'm hearing, like the boy had exact description of what I saw. Exact. It's just there's just footprints and hair samples. Now we had NAWAC come out here and they've done an investigation for us because when we first started, we were we needed to know, and they came out and they found the trails, they found everything, and they deemed it, yeah, this is definitely an active area. Now their report will come out in a few months, which or no, actually anytime now, couple of days to a week. So that will go up. But I would tell people, start reading people's encounters. That, after the things start happening, I start going to Facebook. I start looking at these sites, the safe sites, where you could go on and read people's stories and make comments. I read research papers, and I mean, any information I could find on it. If you don't believe it, then look it up, look into it. open your mind at least. You know, there's just so many encounters. I mean, there's tons of pictures out there. Yes, there are tons of fakes, but there are also some really real pictures. And there's so many footprints taken, I mean, all over the world. So many observations. I mean, you have police officers that seen them while on duty. You've had firemen, you've had, people that people look up to. It can't just all be BS.
That's some good, solid advice. And I think that once you have your eyes open to these things, it changes the way you look at the world. But there's so many credible encounters out there. And sure, you have your hoaxers and your people that, that ruin it for other people who've had these real encounters. But, at least it takes all the guts to come forward to share this stuff. And I'm glad that you're doing that. You're getting the word out, and because people need to know. And I appreciate you coming on the show. I'm looking forward to talking to your husband, and hopefully having him on. But again, thanks for coming on and sharing your encounter.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was fun.
Absolutely enjoyed that, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me and Lisa tonight. When you live on a property like they do, every day is something different, and it can get extremely stressful. And, one of the things that I always try to tell people is be careful what you wish for. And hopefully with her encounter and the others and people who come forward with these things, that we're helping to educate people and to let people know these things are real, that they're out there. And, you need to keep your head on the swivel because you never know what's going to happen. And it just takes a lot of guts to come forward with an encounter like hers. And I really appreciate you guys listening and supporting her with her encounter. And drop a comment down below if you enjoyed this show tonight. But if you've got an encounter that you're sitting on, I would love to hear it. You can always email me at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I'm going to say it. Stay prayed up. We'll see you in the next episode. Guys, if you've made it to the very end of this and you are a member of this channel, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for the support that you have given me and my family over the last year and a half. We could not have made it through what we've been going through without you guys and the support. So I want you to know that I'm very thankful for you. I'm grateful for all the support, and I just want you to know that this podcast means so much to me. And that you guys invest your time and money into this podcast, and that you take time out of your busy schedule to watch. And I want you to know that every single subscriber, every single member, it means a lot to me and my family. So thank you from the very bottom of my heart. And I just wanted to say that. I'm very grateful. I really appreciate it. Good stuff's coming.